some wraps, but these aren't the wraps that you get at the burrito place or anything like that. These are wraps that will be made with a raw collard green wrap, basically. And the great thing about this dish is that you have some raw food in it. Everything is healthy, it's high in protein from the tofu. Sweet potatoes are a superfood full of nutrition. Mushrooms, onions, it tastes delicious. It's easy, it's filling, and healthy. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of cooking in this. It's mostly stir frying. And what we're gonna do first, and never be shy with the olive oil. That's part of how I cook, is we use a lot of olive oil. I grew up in a very old-fashioned Italian-American family, and there might be days where even still I consume a half a cup of olive oil in all my food. It won't get you fat, it won't hurt you. You'll have softer skin for it, so don't be afraid to use it. Extra virgin, organic. So there's a lot of olive oil in here, maybe 1/4 of a cup to 1/3. And you always want to, when you're stir frying, if you have onions and mushrooms, put those in the pan first and make sure that the pan is hot. Keep it on the heat because you don't want to put it in a cold pan. You want it to sizzle the second it hits the pan. So you're going to start with the onions and the mushrooms. You don't have to wait too long to put the sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes fry up very quickly. But you don't want to put too much time in between because these will be ready all at the same time pretty much. And the tofu. The tofu will go in a few minutes after the sweet potato. So I'm going to get the pan hot. The spice I decided to use for today's dish is paprika, which is one of my favorite spices, but it's a sweet paprika. It's not like just the regular kind. You have to look for the sweet one. It has such a great flavor. Okay, so we're gonna put that in there. It's not completely hot yet, but we're gonna put it in anyways. And as far as the portions, like I said earlier, I don't really measure stuff out. And most of you will have an idea how much to put in a pan or how much you like. You can improvise at home with your amounts and what kind of vegetables that you like to use anyways. And maybe at home you want to use zucchini and squash, you don't want to use sweet potato. So whatever you like. Okay, now for the collard green wraps, there's something to know about these is that they wrap really well and they hold really well, except you have to, as much as you can, remove this stem in the middle or else it's just going to break. It's going to have a hard time wrapping. Now this can be a little tricky, but it's worth it. It's worth it because it makes such a good wrap. Now you want to turn it over. You want to wash it and dry it as best you can. And collard greens is one of these superfood greens that has so many vitamins, minerals, chlorophyll. It's so good for you. And it's hard to incorporate it in your diet, because sometimes it doesn't always taste good. Like you look at it and you think, what can I do with that? Can I put it in a salad? Not really, but you could make them into wraps. And another option for these is that you don't have to make them raw. You could boil water and put the collard green in the boiling water for 30 seconds. Remove it and then put it in a bowl with ice, and it will soften it up just the right amount to make it almost like a spring roll texture, and it makes it really easy to wrap. But today we're just going to use them raw. But that's an option. Okay, so I got this. Now, I want to talk about veganism because a lot of people out there don't know what it is. And I've been vegan 10 years now, and it is one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I would never not be vegan. A lot of my friends are vegan, and 10 years ago, I was presented with some information about farming, agriculture, animals, the environment, and it was like a no-brainer. I saw a few videos on YouTube about these farms, and I just immediately, I said, well, of course, I'm gonna go vegan. And in the beginning, I was so passionate about it. Like everybody that knew me, I was talking about veganism all the time. I was bringing pamphlets to work. My family, I was sending everybody videos, every family event. Oh, do you know what you're eating? It was funny. I was trying to educate people, but it took me many years to find the right way. Now, veganism, it's more than, oh, I just want to eat healthy. I just want to eat food. I don't feel like eating animals anymore. No, veganism is like taking a stand. It's like saying, I do not want to consume any animal products. I don't want to wear wool, leather, fur. I don't want to, everything that I buy, I want to be ethical. It's like a whole way of living and thinking. And you start to really change when you live like that. And it's a good thing. It can be difficult because a lot of times your friends and family are looking at you like, what happened to this person? She can't come to the same restaurants as us, and she's always talking, or she or he's always talking about this, but it's really a good thing, and people are opening up to this idea about veganism, about eating vegan, being vegan, living in this way where we're thinking about animals and the earth. And why? Because there's so many things out there that we can't change that happen in the world, that we can't change in this moment, right? There's so many things happening to other people or politics in other countries, but you can make a difference when you sit down and eat, because you can choose what you buy every day, so many times. Every time you go buy something, you can make a choice. So that's why veganism is really important to me. And showing people how to cook vegan, this is the kind of information that people need, because a lot of people don't feel like it's possible to be vegan because they just don't know how to cook it. They don't know what other ingredients to buy when they go to the store. And they don't even know how many vegan food cafes, restaurants there are out there. And there's so many. You just have to Google it. But once you put yourself in this line of information, it gets easier. And then maybe you meet other people who are also in that line of information, or you've exposed yourself to more information on the internet. And all of a sudden it's effortless. Like for me being vegan, people ask me if it's a lot of work. No. And throughout the 10 years I've been vegan, I can't even say how many people have gone vegan. I wouldn't say on account of me, because it wasn't for me, but because I presented some information to them, like how somebody presented some information to me. I just passed it on. And they were like, yeah, this makes sense. I think I can do this. It's easy. And look at me. I'm so healthy. I'm the healthiest of my life, and I exercise. I do martial arts every single day, sometimes for 2 hours. I have all the energy, the good fats, and the nutrition I need on a vegan diet to make this possible, on top of a hectic life, and it's not hard at all. So while this is going, what I want to add to this extra, and this is 1 block of tofu, but you can use a half a block. This I would say is good for 4 or 5 wraps, 2 or 3 people. So this is going to take a little while to fry. I always put cayenne pepper in everything because I love a little spicy. It doesn't have to be really spicy, but a little spicy. And then here's where you put the paprika in. And I'm generous with it. I'd say a tablespoon. And I put a little bit of maple syrup in it too, because it almost gives it that sweetness that you would have with like a barbecue sauce. A little bit, like a half to a whole. So you have, with this dish, you have the olive oil, the paprika, and the maple syrup, and they're gonna create like a fry sauce and kind of stick to everything as it fries. And it smells so good already. Okay. Now we'll let that go. And when you're frying anything in oil, leave the lid off, because when you put the lid on, it's gonna steam what's in there because it's gonna keep the vapor in. That's really important. If you want something to be crispy, leave the lid off and keep the heat almost as high as you can, depending on your pans. If you use nonstick, you always want to, if you're kind of frying or sauteing and you want things to have like a crispy shell a little bit. So you want to have a good pan. I think it is good to use nonstick, but some nonsticks don't retain a lot of heat. So find a good pan. You just have to put enough oil at the bottom. Like I said, don't be afraid to use olive oil. You can always, after, if you don't like the amount of oil, just take a paper towel, just something like this, put it on a plate. You could put a towel or a paper towel and just let all that oil drip onto the paper towel. That way it's more dry. You don't have as much oil as when it was stir-fried with. And salt. I use this pink salt. It's really good. Okay, now you can use whatever you like for the wraps as far as fillings. And you can even, like how I did here, you can even cut the stem a little bit. You can use whatever you like, but I have avocado. Okay, that works good. And I love avocado. I know a lot of people do. Also very high in healthy fats. Doesn't have to be, when I make food, it doesn't have to be all neat and clean and perfectly sliced. As long as it's basically doesn't fall out and it can fit in your mouth, I think it's good. Okay. I'm just putting some avocado here and crushing it in the middle. You could even put some shredded carrots, or beets, or cucumbers, tomatoes, whatever, vegan mayonnaise, which is also really delicious, vegan mayonnaise. Okay. Now here are the first 3 wraps. Just for something crunchy, add some cucumber. I like to buy a lot of my produce organic. It's not always easy because it's a lot more expensive. Depending on the time of year, it might be more expensive, but it's a good feeling to know that the fruits and vegetables you eat that are healthy and have vitamins, don't have pesticides, and are able to have a high nutritional profile, because when you're growing food that's not in nutrient-rich soil, you're not going to have the vitamins and minerals in it. And organic farming helps it possible to keep the nutrients in the food without the pesticides. This is a nice way to get cucumber, slicing it thin like this. Okay. Now, tofu is not a bad food. A lot of people out there think that there's something wrong with soy. There's not. Soy is one of these foods that is genetically modified, but you can buy organic. And it has a lot of protein, amino acids, and if you're not allergic to it, then it's totally fine. And tofu absorbs the flavor of so many different spices, so you can really make it taste good. A lot of people say they don't like tofu, but they just haven't had tofu that tasted really good anywhere. Okay, now. This came out very good. I ended up putting, it needs a lot of paprika and maple syrup and salt. So, but keep tasting it, keep putting it in, keep tasting it until you get to that right balance. You want it to be a little sweet. And you really want to taste the paprika too. Now, you don't have to put a lot. If you put too much in, you're not going to be able to roll it. So this is fine. And just kind of start like this, fold it, fold the edges. You might even want to use toothpicks to hold it together. It's not very easy, but you'll get the hang of it. And then there you have it, right? And it's like a little sub. You can cut it in half. You really have to hold it while you're eating it though, see? But it's good, it's healthy, believe it or not, it's pretty filling. There are different ways you can roll these greens too. You could leave the sides open. Let's see, and put a little less than the last one. Okay, yeah. You could leave it open and just fold like that too. And then cut it. And just as you're eating it, just hold on to the bottom. Okay. Some of them, it can be a struggle holding some of them together, but be patient. You might want to do a few test ones. Let's see. You might even want to try this way. Whatever you like. Okay. Last one. Okay. And you don't even have to put these in a collard green wrap. You could use a wrap. Or you could put this mixture that I made, you could put it over rice. But this is an idea of something that you could make that's tasty, vegan, and that has tofu in it. Okay. So those are my sweet potato, tofu, paprika wraps with mushrooms, avocado, and some cucumber.